Hi, baby.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Listener, I hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining us again.
So we are off into a new year.
Yes.
I was thinking that one thing we never haven't really done so far is kind of explain who we are.
Oh, yeah.
We've
true.
touched on it a little bit, but my feeling was that I kind of wanted to just put information out there and let people listen to it and then decide, oh, does this person know what he is talking about? Is he worth
Right.
listening to? Rather than be like, I am super fancy and I do, because I feel
Right.
like anybody can put together an impressive sounding bio,
Yeah, for sure. Very few people.
actually have an impressive bio.
No, very few people check to see if even it's real.
True. Yes. But I know that some people were curious. Some of the initial feedback was like, well, it'd be nice to know like who you are. So I do want to I wanted to cover that. Who
Okay.
is Meredith's husband and who is Meredith?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I figured this is going to be, it's not going to be any SEO value here. So if you want some tips on SEO, this is not the episode to listen to. Listen to some
Right.
others. And then when you're like, man, this guy is amazing. Who is he? And his wife.
And who is
Unbelievable.
Meredith's husband's wife?
Then you can listen to this episode.
Nice
So let's
explanation.
Yeah, let's start with you.
Okay.
Let's do your story first. And I think just kind of a brief, like not super in depth, but kind of a summary of your professional life. So everything after college. So what were you doing after you got out of college? What did you do?
I was an actor. I was a professional actor for the first half of my post-collegiate years.
Mm-hmm.
And I did everything. I did film, TV, theater.
Well, you started in Chicago.
I started in Chicago. Yeah, I went to Northwestern. And I pretty much started acting professionally my senior year. And then I acted in Chicago for 7 years, doing films and a little TV and a lot of theater and improv.
And then you got to be too big for Chicago.
Then I was so huge in Chicago. I moved to Los Angeles.
You were named the sexiest actress in Chicago, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Yes, she was. If you're listening,
Yeah. Anywho, then I moved to Los Angeles for a couple years and did film, and some TV, and then I'd go back to Chicago and do some films. And then I moved to New York.
and why did you leave LA?
I was awful and I was really depressed and miserable.
Yep.
And I got cast in a show in Chicago, The Rose Tattoo, playing Rosa, the daughter, at the Goodman Theater. And a lot of people there were from New York, and everyone kept saying, why aren't you in New York? You are such a New Yorker. You're miserable in Los Angeles. And I thought, oh, there's millions of me's in New York, but turns out they're not. So I moved to New York, where both of us currently reside, and did a lot of theater and soap operas, commercials, the whole everything. And then it got to a point where my husband
That's me.
told me that I was miserable acting. And all along the way, I've done photography. I did photography starting in high school. I did it in Los Angeles. My friends started having babies, so I started photographing the babies. And my friends would say, you captured their soul. How did you do this? Can I hire you? And can I blah, blah.
And you, as in case people don't know, life as an actor, you usually need some sort of side hustle, like something, some sort of job, because the acting is so, even if you're like a full-time actor, in between projects, you're going to have months. You're not doing anything. So
often.
So in that time, I remember one of your friends anyway said, "Oh, why don't you get a job waiting tables?"
Right.
And I said, "That's stupid." Why would you do that? Why don't you work on photos, do headshots? Or I don't remember my exact advice, but I remember thinking her advice is awful, your friend.
Yeah, that was awful. And also, I was doing shows and all the actors would put their headshots up and I would have to go up to them and say, "Could I please take your headshots? Because that is not you." And so I started taking headshots and kids.
And I think that's kind of where you started to do it as a business.
Yeah, the headshots started to be a business. And then I branched into kids because that made me really happy. I really loved photographing kids and pets. And then there came a point where you said, "Meredith, you're miserable as an actor and you're really, really happy as a photographer."
I didn't say anything about photography, but
yes,
you did. No, not when I said that. Not when
really?
I just said, you're pretty miserable. And a lot of it is just the acting industry. Like it's
so hard.
There's daggers like around every corner.
Yeah,
no matter what happens. Even in the luxury suite, it's like there's daggers around every corner. So you certainly, you don't have a horribly thick skin.
I don't have any thick skin.
Which is needed in that world. And
which is so ironic because you need to be so,
right. Yeah.
Whatever the word is, have your pores all open so you can access your emotions and create. Yeah. Just convey
it's
empathy.
It's a paradox. Yeah,
it is. It is a super paradox.
I just knew that you were always getting these you'd get an audition, you get crazy knots in your back all the time.
Oh yeah, and I couldn't open my mouth.
All these stress related physical symptoms. I
couldn't turn my neck.
And it seemed like you weren't really aware of them because when you're in a world, you're in it.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's hard to have perspective. And I was just like. I said, you're pretty miserable doing this. And then I ducked for cover. So I didn't hit you.
No, yes. I do remember doing a Law and Order, and I remember I could not move my neck or open my mouth during the shooting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stress. Anywho, so then the way I guess I described it was, acting was my career and photography was my hobby, and they kind of just switched. So then acting was less of my main gig and it became a hobby. It didn't really become a hobby, but my photography career started taking off and I eventually left acting. But it took about a year to mourn that because that was my identity.
Yeah. I don't know if I took this into account when I told you were miserable, but your photography you were making money from photography.
Yeah, I was.
So you didn't like jump out of acting and have no income. Like you were starting to have a professional photography base. Yeah.
I was starting that. Yeah, I don't remember, but I do remember thinking, "Oh, you're just jealous because when I have an audition or something, I focus all my energy on that and you want all my attention." And I was convinced that you wanted all my attention. You were jealous of acting.
That's why I ducked. I knew that would be the response. And that's not just you. That seemed to me as an outsider, going to events and knowing your friends, like that's a very actor-y perspective.
Of course.
It's just like, especially when you're working, it's like you are the most important thing in the universe. What you're doing is just infinitely important, and everything else.
You really think that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You really. I mean, you have to, I guess, to
be
devoted in your craft, no matter what it is. You have to feel that it's important and interesting and serves a purpose. Not interesting, but serves a purpose. But I'm certainly glad that I pivoted, as they use the word, because right now during COVID, theaters are closed. It's really a lot of my actor friends are having a really tough time. Some of them are not, but some of them are having a really hard time.
Yeah, well, the entire industry just shut down for at least a year, didn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
and then they
that's a
thought
lot of-
everything
yeah.
was going, and then COVID came back with
Right.
such a vengeance.
Right.
So everything's canceled. It's really, I mean, it's a tricky world for everyone right now. Yeah, and so is that it? I can't really even remember.
I think that kind of that's kind of where that's where you are now.
Yeah, and I took lots of business classes and photography classes. Creative Live was super helpful. Tamara Lackey, Michaela Jade.
Yeah, your photography business now is doing better than I ever thought it would.
Me too.
It's
And
really
you know
fantastic.
what? Today, some clients that I photographed 8 years ago, they were some of my early clients, just reached out and said they were interested if I had availability in reserving some time. So that's really
Nice.
great.
That's always nice. Yeah.
Happy. Yeah, no, I actually really love what I do, and it brings me so much joy.
Makes all the difference.
The connection I have with my clients and my families, they're so lovely, and they're just wonderful people, and we really love each other. I mean, I really love them, and they tell me they love me. And I think one of the things, just to wrap me up quickly, because this has got to be as boring as toast, that when I was an actor, it was really hard because you're judged so much on your looks and this, and so much pressure on this and that. The whole reason that I went into theater in the first place was it was love to me. Theater was love. It's where dreams and passions and hopes and energies and life happened.
And you bring a lot of your acting and improv energy to your photo shoots.
Yeah.
You really play, you take on you're like a totally different person in your photo shoots.
Well, I'm probably more playful. I mean, it's similar to the stage, where I always felt safe on stage because it was always safer. Like it never was self-conscious, it's just, that is a safe place for me, and I could fail and it doesn't matter. And, with improv, you can't be self-conscious. You just have to go with whatever it is, like if all of a sudden, you're a piece of dust on somebody's shoe, that's what you embody. And that's similar with kids. Like I have no shame and no embarrassment. I don't care. I'll do anything to make people laugh and feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah, and that's invaluable. That's so crazy to me that your safe space is on stage in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah, 100%.
To me, that's horrifying.
100%. No. And I remember being in Los Angeles, and I hadn't performed, and I feel sick. Like I don't know what it is that compels performers that need to perform. I don't know what it is. I made a short film about Ed Dixon, who's a fantastic actor, writer, musician, singer, everything. And he talked about how acting is, specifically in theater, it's an exchange of energy. And I felt like on stage, I could open all my pores, and it's almost like you're floating. I don't know how to describe it. You just open your heart to the audience and that whole space, and you fill the whole space up. And it's all you and what you're sharing with your co-stars, and just the rhythm, and it can be magic. I mean, to me, it's still kind of sacred is a weird word, but when it works, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And it's similar to when you get a groove in photography, for me, when you're really connecting with the family, you're really connecting with these kids, you're just playing. And I always say I have no preconceived notions, and there's no one thing I do for every. I mean, a lot of photographers find that it's super helpful to have in their back pocket, which I think is a really good idea. These are some poses that we go through. These are some, and I have probably a few of those, but it's more really just following the energy of the now.
It does seem that don't think I've never really seen you do improv, but that you did a lot of it at one point. It does seem that you take a lot of, that's what you take into your shoots, is you go into a shoot and you're like, whatever is going to happen, I am going to do it 100%. I'm going to be there. Yeah.
I will. Yes. And it. Yeah, for sure.
Seems to be a big advantage.
Yeah.
Can we talk about me now?
Yeah, let's talk about you.
Right. So
tell us your story.
I grew up on the other side of the country in Southern
I hope
California.
that wasn't boring for people. I feel like that was not as exciting as learning boring stuff and facts and anyhow.
I didn't find it boring.
Well, you married me.
Yes. As a reminder, we're talking about me now.
Sorry.
So I went to college in San Diego, and I got out of college and I just kind of did but I found a job at it's like a small company. It was like an investment firm or something. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but
you had done baseball in the back.
I played baseball not through college, but into college.
Yeah.
I stopped halfway through college.
You were a pitcher.
I was, yeah. And that for me, that's similar to kind of where like your comfortable space on stage and feeling like you're filling the space. Like it's just a completely encompassing to me. And that also
filling my space, like filling my heart. And that's what I feel.
It was a totally different, experience. There are things I remember from, by the microsecond, I remember what was happening. It's crazy how time can slow down like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, having to be on a baseball field in front of thousands of people is my hell. My hell. Yeah. My hell.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid of the ball hitting and breaking my face.
Yeah. Well, so was I. So you learn how to duck or catch it or hit it or throw it.
Not sporty.
No, I love that more than anything. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But like you can't do that. There's no way I was going to be a professional athlete. I don't have the size. I don't have the skill. I don't have the mentality. I was pretty good, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. So like midway through college, I stopped playing, and focused on things like studying and other stuff.
What?
So I got that job. I got a job out of college and I worked for a year, a small company, not huge. I don't remember it all that well, but I remember thinking, wow, my boss is an idiot. She is not smart and I don't respect her. And I really don't enjoy just having to blindly do whatever she says, whenever she says. That was just not for me. I do not like working for other people.
Me neither.
And what I do remember is I quit, and I remember walking out of that office on my last day and into the parking lot and thinking, wow, I'm never going to do that again. I remember having that distinct thought, like I am never going into that situation again.
Wow.
Which is pretty stupid and naive for a 22-year-old to say, I am never going to work for another person again. Because of course I did. Ended up getting another job. I did some traveling, and finding myself, and moved to LA. I ended up in LA. We were in LA at the same time.
I know, that's so weird.
Oddly enough, I was also working in film just as like a PA, and I actually spent some time as a production photographer. Don't believe it or not, I don't know how that happened. I think I had a camera and said I could do it, so somebody hired me. And then I was like, oh shit, I guess I need a camera now. So anyway, so I was there, but I didn't like LA either. LA is awful. LA is all about the business, and did not enjoy it. I was not inspired by anything that was happening in LA.
No, it's hard.
So I moved to New York. I got another job. I found a job working at an independent film company, which was great. That was fantastic. That was so much fun as a job. That was so cool. But it was a small company. Again, independent film companies either get bought up or they go out of business. Seems it's one or the other. So that company went out of business, and I found myself on unemployment. I thought that was
it's great. Trust me. I think it's a
I was like,
thing.
I can take some time, because I knew I wanted to start a business, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I took the time like, oh, I'm making a little bit of cash. I'm going to try to start a business. And I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I could build websites though, and I liked that because that's one thing I did at that film company. And at that time, that was kind of a rare skill. It was like 2002 or 2003.
100%.
It was totally different. There's no WordPress, there's no Wix or Squarespace. Like it was literally building a website you would literally start with a blank screen.
Was it all code?
It was all code. There were a couple programs called Dreamweaver and Adobe Go Live.
I remember Dreamweaver.
That helped, but I had to learn code. And I liked it, but it was difficult for me because I'm not a creative person like you were saying, like some people just need to create. They need to perform. They need to paint. They need to write. Yeah. Like I'm not that creative. Like I liked creating websites and I liked the psychology behind like how is a person going to interact with this and how do I get their attention and get them to do this versus that. I like that aspect. But it was very difficult for me to go back and forth between building a site, which for me, I had to kind of gear up for the creative aspect of that, go back and forth between that and also go out and network at business events and pitch people and find my next website. Because you build a website, it takes a couple months and then it's done. You got to have another one lined up. So I had a lot of trouble going back and forth between those two different mindsets, like being trying to be creative and then trying to be a business person. I can't
think you're creative, though.
I'm creative, but not like
you're really
I have
good
a
at thinking outside the box and you make little things now.
Yes.
I think you've become more creative over the years or more in touch with your creativity.
Probably. Well, as a business owner, it kind of is a benefit to be a little creative.
100%.
But I don't have this overwhelming desire to write poetry. Like I'm not that kind of creative.
Right.
So I started, I was building websites, but then I also found that whenever I finished a website and gave it to somebody, their first question was the same thing. It was like, great, how do we get people to see this? Because there was no social, like getting people to a website was also totally different. Like Google Ads was just starting, but like nobody really knew about it. Google was kind of emerging as the dominant search engine. And I had one client who I was kind of pitching ideas to, like, this is how we could get people to see it. And he was like, oh, okay, I'll give you $500 and see what you can do. And so that was right at the early days of Google Ads where you could buy clicks for like, not 5 cents, but maybe 50 cents. And so he gave me $500. I think I probably kept like $100.
Yeah.
And spent $400 on ads. And, not too long later, like in the next month, that guy booked $80,000 in business.
Holy smokes.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be a thing. Like, talk about something that people are going to want. This is going to be an important thing. But I didn't really like ads. I didn't like buying ads. That didn't seem that interesting to me. I was pretty fascinated with how Google worked and why some websites appeared there and others didn't. And just the whole algorithm. And so I started to get more into that, knowing that, okay, not many people at all know how to do this or have any idea of what's coming, to be honest. But I had a pretty good perspective at that point. And I was like, well, I need to build a head start because there's going to be a lot of competition. But for the first couple of years I was doing it, I told people what I did. I tried to explain SEO. SEO was not a term that anyone had heard of. Nobody believed me. Nobody knew what you did. Everybody thought I was a con man. Like I would say, I get websites to the top of Google, and literally people say, "You can't do that. That's not a thing. That's not real."
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, yeah, it is. Some people did believe me, and they got the benefit. It's like the $500 client.
Yeah.
So the people who did believe me and give me a chance, a lot of them are still working with me, to be honest.
That's pretty great.
Like $500 client, he doesn't hire me to do his SEO, but he hires me to train his team now.
Wow.
Like do the stuff that I used to do for him.
And he has a team now.
Yes. Yeah. I remember when I met him, he had a restaurant and he was trying to launch a events company, and we were in the basement of his restaurant. which is as what you would imagine the basement of a restaurant looks like.
Right.
And we were talking. He was the only person in his company, aside for the people working the restaurant, and I was the only person. And I kept saying, he would ask something. Oh, we'll do this and we'll do that. And he looked at me and he's like, "Who's we?" And I'm like, it's just me. I just say we. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I should do that too." Anyway, that's where I started with him. And so that was 2004-ish.
Wow.
Like I said, I tried to do SEO for a few years. In 2006, I incorporated my business. I had a handful of clients. I was doing pretty well, getting a handle on the SEO thing. I actually incorporated my business like a month after I met you. Or
I think
maybe a month and a half.
I remember you were saying, I never understood what it was that you did initially.
My parents still have no idea what I did.
Yeah, my parents have no idea either. But it was, I remember like he does something with computers, and he's incorporating, not knowing what that meant. Yeah.
Well, that just meant I got a business. I was an official business. I hired I hired a couple employees at that time. It's interesting now that I think about it. I met you and incorporated my business within 2 months of each other. Those are two pretty big life events. Like both of those things are still going well, knock on wood.
Yes, poo.
So I spent the next few years doing my own SEO. So I got to a point, within a couple years that if you did a search online for SEO in New York, or you look for an SEO company in New York, I was number 1 or number 2, which was pretty good calling card. Like I didn't need to do anything else. I had never worried about getting clients. So I was getting all the business I needed that way. And then in 2012, late 2011, maybe 2012, Reuters Business Television did a little episode on me.
Yes, they did.
And one of my clients,
they did.
Which I thought was cool. Actually, the woman who did that spot said she was hearing about SEO and wanted to do a thing on this new thing called SEO. And I'm like, new thing? It's been like, I've been doing this 8 years. Like, it's not a new thing. But to mainstream, it was a new thing.
Yeah, and you really have been doing it.
Yeah, a long time.
Long time.
And so she said she was at the Reuters offices and she just asked around people, do you know who is good at SEO? And she said my name came up from multiple people, which I was like, wow, that's really impressive.
Awesome.
But anyway, so they did that. The following year, I did gangbuster consulting work for small businesses. I had a lot of work. That was probably to date my best year as a consultant working with small business. Like it was fantastic. And then I started going into working as a specialized consultant for other agencies, for bigger agencies, for marketing agencies who are working for like big national or international brands who they need an SEO person. They need an SEO strategy. And then I started doing that. And I kind of like that. I like that work because it's just pure work. I don't have to worry so much about the client relationship because I'm basically a subcontractor. I don't have to worry about finding clients. The people who know me in the New York agency world, the people who I want to know me. Yeah. So when they have a project that I would be good for, they just call me and I do it. In fact, I don't even right now. I don't even have a website. My website is just one page. There's no contact information. There's no nothing because I don't want to deal with the people who know me, who I want to have know me. So
yeah, but it's not just in New York. There are people all over. Yeah. Who call you directly.
Right. Yeah. True. Yeah. Actually, that's right.
Yeah. That's very impressive.
So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I do a little bit of work for clients who I've been working with for years, like Mr. 500. Right. I do work for agencies. But during COVID, we have talked about a little bit. I remember telling this story in one of the episodes.
I can't remember anything I've ever said, so I'm glad you do.
I remember everything, unfortunately.
Mostly. True.
Yeah. I had a year in lockdown where we were pretty slow work-wise, all of us. And I remember thinking back over the work I had done and thinking, oh, what am I going to do when we get back to work? And I remember thinking, well, you know how some things over your work career just stand out?
Yeah.
Like the clients who were miserable or something that was really cool or a big, stuff like that. And I remember thinking the one thing that was really cool was helping that friend of yours with her pet adoption website thing.
Yeah.
Which I did for no money. It was just helping her because she's a friend of yours.
Yeah.
And to this day, I remember that because she got so excited about the stuff we talked about and the ideas I was able to give her. And that was no money. And on the flip side was like one of my agency clients put me on a project that was a really decent sized project, and we delivered it. And the company said like, this is great. We're actually not going to use it. But we needed to spend our marketing budget at the end of the year. This is really, it's really fantastic work, and we love it. But we're actually not going to do this. And I was like, oh shit! Well, that I made a lot of money, and I did work I liked. But that feeling was really shitty. That stuck out to me.
It's important to feel. You want to feel like you're doing something. At least for me, back to me.
Yes.
When people ask me what I do now, I say I photograph love, because that's the thing that started me being an actor and now fulfills me as a photographer. It's love.
Yeah.
For me. I mean, I know you're more business, and I'm not business, but
I'm more like problem solving. Like I really like one thing I remember I really liked as a kid is doing those little mind game puzzles. I love those. And to me, business is just like that. It's like solve this puzzle. You can do it any way you need, but you need to solve it.
Right. I love those.
Anyway, so I didn't. So I, with that feeling, I was thinking, oh, what can I do after COVID? After we come out from my, the remaining decade or two of my professional life that I'm going to really enjoy and really feel, get fulfillment from. What am I going to really like? And so at some point I started thinking, oh, photographers. Like I know that doing your SEO and then hearing the SEO advice that you were getting from your classes was pretty much, it was not good. And I remember thinking I was in the office one day, we were back from COVID, and we were talking, you were not feeling well or something. For some reason you're feeling under weather. And I thought, I'll just call Meredith and check in. I'll be a good husband and, I'll do it. Even though I, didn't really feel like it at the time. I'm like, oh gosh, I need to check in. So we were talking and you were saying something about SEO, something you were learning in your one of your courses. And I was like, oh, that's garbage. And I started telling you why it was garbage. And just out of nowhere, I thought this conversation that we're having right now would be really valuable to other photographers. Right. And I said, do you want to do a podcast with me?
Yeah.
Just right out of the blue.
Yeah.
And without hesitation, you said yes.
Yeah, so you're like, oh my God, it's been in front of me all this time.
Yeah. This
for like
problem
years. My wife has been doing this and I get frustrated.
I just say that I like to solve problems.
Right.
I like to create solutions. And there's this huge problem right in front of me that needs a solution. And I'm like, that's stupid. But anyway, so I said, do you want to do a podcast? You said yes. The next day we set up a Zoom meeting, recorded it, I put it online. There was a podcast. It was one of the quickest things I've ever done in my life.
Yes.
Just without thinking at all.
I love it. That's like improv.
Yeah.
You just,
an
opportunity comes and you're like, sure, let's try it. What harm is there?
Yeah. And then I think we did like 3 episodes or so. And I said, can you put this just, we didn't tell anybody about it. We just did it to see would this work?
Yeah.
And
also,
I said,
do we enjoy it? Like, is there?
Right.
Whatever.
And then I said, can you just post this on like one of your Facebook photography groups and say, and just ask people, hey, do you like this? Is this worthwhile? Is this something you would listen to?
Right.
And the feedback was fantastic.
It was
feedback
lovely.
Was really good.
Thank you all who did that. We're now continuing this all because of you. Truly.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. If there was no feedback, we would not be doing this.
Right. If nobody responded, we would not have.
Or if it was like, boring.
But that was that same feeling that I had anyway, working with your friend, that was like just seeing and hearing people like light up. I was like, oh, that's
it's
so
so
cool.
important. I feel this is from when I was doing the play, The Arabian Nights in Chicago. There was, a long story short, a question was asked, what is the meaning of life? The answer was to cultivate enthusiasm. And that's something I live by.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great one. It's a really great one.
It's a very good one.
Because we need each other. Nobody can do anything alone. And we are humans. We need other humans. And there is such a joy in helping other humans and making them happy.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
So I knew we would get back to talking about Meredith and her acting. Which is fine.
Love.
That's totally fine.
Well, you have to bring it full circle.
It's a story. Yes.
Callback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
for
bookends.
those improv people.
All right, so that's us. That's why you're listening to Meredith and her husband.
Yeah, I hope this wasn't
that's where
the
we
most
come from.
boring episode possible, because there's no facts.
Can you imagine if this is the first episode that somebody listens to?
Oh no, like, everyone would turn it off. Like, what narcissistic pricks. All they do is talk about themselves and argue who can talk about themselves more.
Well, I hope some of you enjoyed it.
I hope this is interesting to anybody. If it is, please let us know. And if it isn't, we'll be sure to never talk about ourselves.
Never do that again.
Yeah, we'll be back to facts next time. Helpful facts.
Right. Yes.
So you can grow your business and feel good about yourself.
Yes. Until then.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.